Hey, Sip Surrender Sparkle fam! Today we're diving into a mind-blowing book that challenges our perceptions of human nature. We're about to embark on a journey that explores the evolution of human violence and presents an intriguing perspective. The world may be more peaceful than we think. So gear up for an intellectual adventure. And before we plunge into this deep dive, do hit that like button and subscribe to join our family of thinkers. If you're ready to explore, then buckle up. You're in for a treat. We're talking about The Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker. This isn't your average book, folks. It's a journey, a voyage through time tracing the history of violence in human society. But don't brace for a grim tale. Instead, Pinker paints a picture that's quite contrary to our everyday news cycle. He argues that we're living in one of the most peaceful times in human history. Yes, you heard that right, one of the most peaceful. Now, how is that possible, you ask? Pinker lays it all out. He explores the decline of violence from the medieval era to the present day. He digs into the factors that have contributed to this trend, from the rise of government and trade to the spread of reason and empathy. It's a fascinating exploration that challenges our preconceived notions about our world. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the decline of violence and the factors that have contributed to this positive trend. Scene script. Pinker breaks down the decline of violence on a global scale, from wars to crime rates. Now you might be wondering, how exactly does he justify this seemingly counterintuitive claim? Well, Pinker relies heavily on historical data and trends, tracing back through thousands of years. He points to the decrease in violent deaths from wars, genocides, and even homicides. Yes, it's true. Despite what the evening news might lead you to believe, your chances of dying a violent death are significantly lower now than they've ever been in human history. But why is that? Pinker points to a few key causes. First, the rise of nation-states. As societies became more organized and states took on the monopoly of violence, individuals were less likely to resort to violence to solve disputes. Instead, they could rely on the legal system. The state also provided security, which further reduced the likelihood of violent confrontations. Second, the spread of democracy. Democracies have been shown to be less likely to wage war against each other, a phenomenon known as the democratic peace theory. This has contributed to a decrease in war-related deaths. Furthermore, the impact of Enlightenment ideals cannot be ignored. The Enlightenment was a period in history where reason, science, and humanism became the guiding principles of society. These ideals promoted peace and cooperation and discouraged violence. Pinker also talks about the civilizing process, a term borrowed from sociologist Norbert Elias. This process refers to the long-term trend towards more peaceful and less violent behaviors as societies become more complex and interdependent. And let's not forget the power of trade and commerce. As Pinker argues, when trade becomes more profitable than plunder, people tend to opt for the former. It's not because they've suddenly become angels, but because it's in their best interest. Finally, Pinker highlights the role of the better angels of our nature, our capacities for empathy, self-control, morality, and reason. These are the aspects of our nature that, when nurtured, can help us resist our more violent impulses. Of course, this doesn't mean that violence has been eradicated or that we don't face serious challenges, but it does provide a more nuanced and hopeful perspective on our capacity for peace. It's a fascinating look at how our societies have evolved over time, challenging the notion that humans are inherently violent. So next time you find yourself despairing at the state of the world, remember Pinker's arguments. We've come a long way, and there's every reason to believe that we can continue on this path towards a more peaceful world. But it's not just about external factors. This line marks the beginning of an intriguing exploration into the psychological and cultural shifts that have contributed to the decline of violence in our world. Steven Pinker, the author of The Better Angels of Our Nature, suggests that our minds and societal norms have undergone significant transformations over the centuries. These changes have played a crucial role in shaping our behavior, particularly in relation to violence. Let's start with the psychological shifts. Pinker argues that our brains have evolved to become more adept at handling conflict and aggression. We've developed cognitive skills that enable us to empathize with others, understand different perspectives, and think critically about our actions. This evolution in our mental abilities has, in turn, reduced our inclination towards violence. Pinker also points out that our capacity for self-control has improved over time. We've become better at managing our emotions, resisting impulsive behavior, and making rational decisions. This enhanced self-regulation has helped us to avoid violent confrontations and resolve conflicts in a more peaceful manner. Now let's move on to the cultural shifts. According to Pinker, our societies have undergone profound changes that have influenced our attitudes towards violence. For example, we've seen a rise in the value placed on human life and dignity. This has led to a decrease in practices that were once considered acceptable, such as slavery, public executions, and corporal punishment. Furthermore, our cultural narratives and stories have evolved to promote peace and discourage violence. Literature, films, and other forms of media have started to portray violence in a more negative light, highlighting its harmful consequences rather than glorifying it. This shift in narrative has played a significant role in shaping our perceptions of violence and influencing our behavior. So, it's clear that our psychological and cultural evolution has had a profound impact on our propensity towards violence. We've come a long way from our violent past, and these changes in our minds and societies have played a crucial role in this journey. He explores how our ideas and perceptions of violence have shifted, influencing our behavior and societal norms. This statement encapsulates Pinker's exploration of the psychological and cultural shifts that have contributed to the decline of violence in our world. This book challenges the idea that humans are inherently violent beings. Steven Pinker, the author, invites us to take a step back and consider the evidence he presents. Now, this may seem counterintuitive. After all, aren't we constantly bombarded with news of conflict and violence? It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that aggression and hostility are just parts of human nature. But Pinker urges us to look beyond the headlines, beyond our preconceived notions. He lays out a compelling argument, one that is backed up by extensive research and data. He shows us that violence has, in fact, been declining over centuries. This decline, he suggests, is not due to some fluke or random chance. Rather, it's a product of our evolving culture and psychology. We've become more empathetic, more understanding. Our societies have changed, and so have we. But Pinker doesn't just want us to take his word for it. He wants us to question, to probe, to rethink. He wants us to reconsider our beliefs about human nature, about what we are capable of as a species. And he doesn't shy away from the big questions. Are we destined for violence, or can we choose a different path? Can we continue this trend of peace and progress? Pinker's perspective is indeed a refreshing one. It offers a glimmer of hope, a testament to our capacity for change. It challenges us to look at ourselves and our world in a new light. It's a refreshing perspective that might just change the way you see the world. All right, Sparkle Squad, we've just scratched the surface of The Better Angels of Our Nature. This groundbreaking work by Steven Pinker is a deep dive into the evolution of human violence, challenging our preconceived notions and painting a hopeful picture of our world at large. Now, if these insights have sparked your curiosity, if you find yourself intrigued by the idea that we're living in the most peaceful era in human history, I encourage you to grab a copy of this book. Immerse yourself in its pages and allow Pinker's compelling arguments to guide you through the labyrinth of human nature. The journey will be enlightening, I promise. Reading this book will give you a more in-depth understanding of the decline of violence, the rise of peace, and the factors that have contributed to this extraordinary transformation. It's a perspective that goes against the grain, a perspective that might just change the way you see the world and our place in it. And let's not forget, we're not just passive consumers of knowledge, we're a community. We're here to engage, to discuss, to question, and to learn from each other. So once you've delved into the better angels of our nature, well, let's get the conversation going. Share your thoughts, your questions, your insights. I'm eager to hear what you think. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder, if you enjoyed this video and you're keen on exploring more thought-provoking content, hit that like button. It's a small action, but it makes a big difference. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring that notification bell. You wouldn't want to miss out on our next deep dive, would you? So here's to sparking conversations, to challenging our perceptions, to embracing the journey of learning. Here's to the Sparkle Squad, a community of curious minds and bright spirits. What are your thoughts on the decline of violence in human history? Thanks for joining me today on Sip, Surrender, Sparkle. What an enlightening journey through the pages of The Better Angels of Our Nature. I hope it sparked curiosity and maybe even a new perspective. Remember, we're part of this grand human story, and the more we know, the better we can shape tomorrow. So keep that sparkle in your eyes, that curiosity in your heart, and let's continue exploring together. Until next time, stay curious, stay sparkly, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers!